I would say, yeah, it was like 2 to 2.5 years before I was able to like replace consistently my full-time income. And it wasn't until I got laid off and really was able to focus. So from 2013 to 2015, I was testing different things. Luckily, at the very beginning, I knew that I wanted to have, what we call a personal brand now pretty commonly. Back then, I mean, it was obviously still a term, but people weren't thinking, hey, I'm going to build a personal brand. But I knew I wanted to have an email list, a digital product in the form of like either an ebook or courses, and my actual like affiliate marketing business. So one of the reasons why I ended up taking maybe a little more time than was absolutely necessary from where I was starting, it was because I was trying to build the brand. I was working on the affiliate marketing business. I was trying to build the email list and kind of, like a young entrepreneur dabbling around in probably too many things versus focusing on one area.
Yeah! What's up, everybody? Your life alchemist, your dragon. Welcome to Alchemized Life. I'm your host, Justin David Carl. This is a show where I seek out and share expertise, wisdom, and thought leadership in all domains with the mission of empowering and inspiring you to proactively design and truly live a life worth living. We're all in this together, and when we do the work together, we go so much farther, so much faster, and have so much more fun. Without further ado, let's dig into this episode and alchemize life. Doug Cunnington, so good to have you on the show, brother.
Justin, I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So I first kind of got introduced to you through your podcast, Mile High 5 podcast, which you're a co-host of. And before we kind of go too much into the background of who you are and what you do, I want you to tell me about how you made six figures and lost six figures with selling websites and SEO.
So we will get into the backstory, but a few years ago, I had a website and it was earning, pretty good money, full-time income for me and the family. And I decided I wanted to sell it, which is kind of typical when you have a few sites and you're thinking, hey, I could sell this for, a few $100,000. So the traffic for the site that was driving all the earnings was coming from Google organic search engine optimization, SEO. So it was great. So I put it on a marketplace, negotiating. Some deals were actually like coming through and we're working on the fine print. And a Google algorithm update was rolled out, which happens a few times a year. You never quite know when it's going to happen or what impact it will have on the site. So this particular site was impacted negatively. It lost about, I think, 35% of the traffic, essentially overnight, which is one of the risks of these types of websites or any business model that relies solely on Google organic traffic. So luckily, I was still able to sell the site. However, because of the traffic reduction and a corresponding loss in revenue, I lost, six figures on that deal and just, had to move forward. And it's a lesson learned. And unfortunately, that happened before in the past also. But it's one of those deals. It's one of the risks of the business. And, I look back, it was still a successful endeavor overall. But yeah, the one data point there, like it hurts to lose six figures overnight from an external source.
Yeah. Loss aversion, right? It's like like you still made a ton of money off of it, but the fact that you could have made more, like that's not going to go away for a while.
And it's days or weeks. Like if I just would have listed it a little bit sooner, or if, a couple of things fell into place sooner, unfortunately, then it would have happened to the new owner. But, we just have to move forward and there's nothing I can do about it now. And everything's great otherwise. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Really a small bump in the life of someone who's already financially independent. So to give you a little introduction or more formal introduction on the show, Doug Cunnington is a niche authority site enthusiast, He has a popular YouTube channel, podcast, and blog called Niche Site Project, all about content websites that earn money with affiliate commissions in display ads. Doug got started in 2013 with an AdSense niche site that was a total flop, but he was hooked. He's created and sold multiple websites for multiple six figures, and before getting laid off in 2015, where his old corporate job of management consulting, and Doug has been a project management professional, or PMP, since 2008. You also have the Doug Show, in addition to the Mile High Fi, and then you got some online courses on your website that we're definitely going to dig into. But before all of that, I kind of want you to take us back to your origin story. I know you spent 9 years in management consulting, but where'd you go to college? Why'd you get into management consulting? And I'm partially, or I should say sincerely, interested in this because I went down the investment banking route initially, and I almost went down the management consulting route. So this hits close to home for me.
Okay. Yeah. So I went to Georgia Tech. I'm from the Atlanta, Georgia area originally. And I think a theme from probably middle school until maybe I was about 30, right? So 12, 13 to about 30. I just kind of was complacent. I took the easy route most of the time, like many of us do. Luckily, I test well. I was pretty good at school, got good grades and all that stuff, but took the easy route. So I ended up at Georgia Tech, which is a good engineering school. I have a computer engineering degree. And, I did what I needed to do to get through and had decent internships. So I thought I was going to end up doing software engineering type stuff. But out of school, I guess I didn't have quite high enough grades to get a job at any of the top tier companies. So in fact, the company that I ended up working at, Accenture, doing management consulting, I was referred to them. So it wouldn't have picked me up unless I was referred. So when I did interview with the introduction, I made it through and that was fine. So I ended up doing consulting just because that's the job that I got. And I didn't have my sights set on it or anything like that. I thought I'd be, writing software or designing chips somewhere that was a little closer to the degree that I had. But it ended up being good because I don't think I was a strong enough engineer to do a really good job. I probably could have done okay, but I wasn't really passionate about it. That said, I wasn't really passionate about management consulting, but at least we got to do, several different things. I was using certain parts of my degree and there were new projects all the time. So I just kind of found my way in management consulting and bounced around a little bit, ended up getting my PMP, which was, good degree and a good way to pull everything together for me.
Yeah. So 9 years management consulting, I could barely last a year and a half of internships in investment banking. How the hell did you stay in there for 9 years?
So the first couple of years were tough, and I know I whined and complained, and I would try to get pushed off projects. I would request to get off projects, and travel wore me down quite a bit. But I got lucky and ended up in town, so I didn't have to travel full time. And switching projects fairly frequently and switching, clients was a good thing because even if it sucked, I knew I was going to be able to go to another project before too long. And the other part is the companies that I was working at kind of early on, even 2008 or so, we were working remotely a little bit. So we would get 1 or 2 days home per week, or if you went to the office, maybe not everyone was there. So it was a little bit less pressure where, the first couple years it was, you fly out on a Sunday night or Monday morning, you fly back on Thursday night, you barely have any time at home, and it really wore me out. But overall, I ended up being sort of a mid-tier performance employee. So it kept me out of trouble. And it also meant I wasn't working too hard. So like I said, good theme for me for about 15 to 18 years was complacent and just kind of, stay out of trouble. Don't be too good, don't be too bad. And once I got into the middle management area, very easy to kind of skate through. I think all the stories I tell now, I would never be able to be hired by one of these companies because they would hear me talk about how lazy I am. Not lazy, I'm just like, I don't want to waste time, right?
Yeah.
So it was tough. And eventually I figured out like, I don't really like doing this stuff at all.
Yeah. So was there like a turning point in your, management consulting career where you're like, all right, I need to get out of this? Was there any sort of one thing that happened, or was it like, death by 1,000 paper cuts? Or
the 1,000 paper cuts for sure. I don't think I would have quit. You mentioned I got laid off in 2015. I had a good salary. I worked from home. I had a team so I could delegate a lot, and everything was mostly pretty good. It wasn't bad enough for me to actually quit at that point or any point before that. The biggest change in mindset was when I started to get into entrepreneurship and niche sites, which was via Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn, the podcast, right?
Yep.
Do you know that one?
Yep.
So I found that one 2013, and just kind of randomly, like I was not interested in entrepreneurship or anything, and just kind of I got sucked in. Within a few weeks, I started my first website and started listening to other shows in the side hustle space. And basically at that point I realized, oh, there's another way. Like people that I really consider my peers. Like I didn't have like an inferiority complex or anything, but I'm like, I could see they're doing it. And if they could do it, like I should be able to figure out how to make some of this stuff work and earn money on my own. So just slowly over a couple years, my mindset shifted completely from like, oh, I need to have a job and it's great to have a team and implement these large scale system implementation projects, to that's a huge amount of waste. Why would I want to work with a big team if I could just do like more productive stuff by myself or with like one or two virtual assistants or something? So just podcast and reading a couple books about mindset really shifted everything for me.
Yeah. Now I'm curious, is it part of your personality to want to work kind of like with a smaller team and kind of be more, kind of self-employed and self-directed? Because some people love being a part of like a big team and managing a lot of people. Other people, they prefer, either self-employment or very small team. Where do you think that comes from with you?
Very small teams. And yeah, even currently I just have 2 or 3 virtual assistants doing very specific things. And luckily I was able to test it. So one great thing with a corporate job was, I helped build teams, interviewed, over 100 people, hired a bunch of people, built teams, onboarded them, and managed teams from, 6 to 15 people or so. And it was fine. And I learned things by doing that, but I realized that it's much easier and less stressful to not do that. And that does fit my personality more. So yeah, all else being equal, I'd much rather have like less stress and, potentially the same revenue, and just things are easier and simpler. And I like that.
Yeah. The thing that I've found in my own life is the less people that you manage, the more autonomy you have over your schedule. And the more people go ahead.
You got it. No, you finish up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the more people you have to manage, the more your schedule becomes theirs versus kind of you can direct your own day. So I've personally stayed out of middle management and just basically minimize the number of people that I have to manage, like keep it as low as possible, or have somebody else manage them while I do other parts of the business.
Right. Yeah. And how big's your team? Justin, I'm not 100% sure all the things that you're working on, but how many people do you have like on your team or that you're managing on a regular basis?
I basically have nobody that I'm managing. So my business partner in my fitness and money coaching program, he manages everybody, and I focus on the parts that I love, which are kind of like the coaching as well as like the content around kind of that Fit Rich Vegan brand. And then for my Stanford startup, I'm just like founding team member and the top salesperson. So like I have a VP of sales who's my boss, but like, I don't want his job because I don't want to manage all the other salespeople. I just want to be the top performer and earn as much money as possible, and really maintain freedom of, over my schedule. Like, that's like super, super important to me. And they don't care how I manage my time as long as I perform.
Perfect. Yeah. And, when I think about, I hired someone not too long ago to pick up some extra, work that perfect for them. But that's a task for me to make sure that they have what they need, that they have enough work. And like you said, all of a sudden, if you have a team member that could do something, but you have to, make sure that they have enough work, then you end up in a bit of a cycle where like, you're like, oh, I have to bring in more business to make sure that person is busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough like balancing act.
Yeah. It's definitely, fortunately, the way around that is, that I found in my own experience is to partner with somebody who enjoys kind of that aspect, or who can help you kind of like systemize that process of bringing in more business, or kind of get you the support that you need to, really avoid having to make sure that you're spending your time making sure that there's enough work for one of your employees.
Yep, exactly.
So basically, you circle back to your story. You get introduced to Smart Passive Income through Pat Flynn. You kind of start down this journey of, looking into entrepreneurship and getting out of middle management. What is kind of like your first successful, business entrepreneurial endeavor?
Luckily, it was pretty quick. So within 6 months or so, I had a website that was earning, a few $1,000s per month, and it kind of escalated quickly. So I started my first site, which was a flop, but then I regrouped, and 2 months later, I started another one and corrected some of the mistakes that I made and approached a different business model, which is affiliate marketing. And I focused on the Amazon affiliate program. Amazon Associates program is another name that you'll hear referred to as, and basically went that route. I probably got a little lucky with timing and a handful of other things. There's always these external factors. You can't control it all, but maybe I got a little bit lucky. And I think within 3 months, it was making $300 a month. And then the next month it was $800, and then $1,200. And then by month 6, it was like $6,200 that December, which is a high month seasonally for retail. So again, got a little bit lucky with timing, but at that point I thought that I was a genius, that I would be able to quit my job. It didn't exactly turn out that way. Like I said, with SEO, there's some volatility. So I had an issue within a couple months, but basically within 6 months, I had a site that was pretty close to my full-time income. And I was like, this is great. Like, once I thought I maybe could do it, and my initial goal for that site was just to make $300 per month, which I hit pretty quickly. And once I was able to do it one time, I knew that I could do it again, even if things were harder or things shifted. But I was like, oh, I could do this, and just kept pushing and testing. And I had some false starts for probably a couple years before things really kind of got pulled together, and I was consistently making enough money to feel comfortable, I guess.
So essentially you put in a few years before you really kind of like figured it out and got to the point where you were able to replace your full-time income. But you is that correct? That one of your projects start within about 6 months, after that first kind of initial years of, learning the business, learning the industry, that one project in about 6 months turned into the golden goose that could potentially replace your full-time income, correct?
You got it. I mean, certainly there's some nuance and more complicated stuff that we'll get into, but I would say, it was like 2 to 2.5 years before I was able to like replace consistently my full-time income. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I got laid off and really was able to focus. So from 2013 to 2015, I was testing different things. Luckily, at the very beginning, I knew that I wanted to have, what we call a personal brand now pretty commonly. Back then, I mean, it was obviously still a term, but people weren't thinking, hey, I'm going to build a personal brand. But I knew I wanted to have an email list, a digital product in the form of like either an ebook or courses, and my actual like affiliate marketing business. So one of the reasons why I ended up taking maybe a little more time than was absolutely necessary from where I was starting, it was because I was trying to build the brand. I was working on the affiliate marketing business. I was trying to build the email list and kind of, like a young entrepreneur dabbling around in probably too many things versus focusing on one area. In the long run, it worked out, but just progress was slower. And I mean, that you nodded, so like you feel the pain, you kind of move around too much. And I didn't know any better at the time. So
yeah, I'm just smiling and nodding because I feel like a lot of times, like in my own kind of entrepreneurial journey, one, I'm kind of like trying maybe too many different things and kind of that's slowing me down versus if I was a little bit more focused, it would probably empower me. And then secondly, like just my own, like I tried to start an online fitness coaching program like 5 years ago, couldn't even get it off the ground. And here I am now, I finally, like I have super successful one. So it's just like, I think entrepreneurs, it oftentimes seems like just like you totally did it and you were a success, but like, you basically had 2 to 3 years of, mistakes, failures, setbacks, learning, not really making much. And then it finally all starts to click. And in my own thing or journey, it was, even longer. Like I wanted to do a podcast and have a coaching program for like 5 years, but like, I was just like, I just did not get around to it. Like I was holding myself back. So
yeah.
Help me understand kind of how you navigated, that entrepreneurial pursuit with your full-time job. Like, how did that actually work? You mentioned at the top of the episode that a lot of the time you were able to work from home. Like, how were you actually like spending 2 to 3 years, like, pursuing and learning and failing and learning and failing? Like, how did that actually work with your full time?
A lot of it was 2 laptops set up next to each other, one the work laptop and one my personal laptop, where I never crossed streams there, but yeah. I was often like working on my business during like idle time where, probably most people, like if they have their job for a little while, I mean, what do you actually do? How many hours do you actually work per week? Is it like 20 hours and you're there 40 hours? Like there's a lot of waste. And if you're at home, you can do laundry or whatever, go to the grocery store, work out, like fill in the blank. And a lot more people are doing it now, but I was doing this a little earlier. So I would have 2 laptops set up. Now that said, I mean, I did have to do some work, unfortunately. And I would, we're going to get to sleep more, but I would wake up at like 4 a.m. when I was really obsessed. This probably was for a couple years off and on, the 2013 to 15. I would wake up at 4 a.m, work for a couple hours, drink way too much caffeine all day long, do my normal job, walk the dog, all that stuff. And potentially, work a little bit in the evening too. So I was stealing time from my sleep to work on the business. Again, I was obsessed and I wanted to do it. I never felt pressure or anything. It was really fun to learn, to test, to come up with an idea, implement it without having to get approval from like 3 layers of bosses or something like that. So it was really fun to do that kind of stuff. And the other part is, mentioned working remotely, and it was a couple days at first, but then it was pretty much full time. And my wife and I were actually able to slow travel some and spend a month in different cities. And we ended up moving across the country at some point in time. And actually it was in 2015. So a lot of stuff happened in 2015. So again, a lot of it, woke up early. The other thing was I was working in parallel. And as time went on, I became a little more efficient and understood like what things were effective and started to sleep a little bit more. And I also realized if I drank, I think my tipping point's like a 1.25 liters of coffee, like I get a little jittery. It's a little too much, I love it, but it's a little too much.
That's when the like anxiety would rocket up and you'd be like, oh God, I'm so stressed out and I don't even know why.
Yeah, fly off the handle. I don't know. It's like 400 milligrams. I'm not quite sure, but I'm nowhere close to that these days. But yeah, I love caffeine, but yeah, I know I can't do it like I was those days.
Yeah, that's definitely, I am a fellow caffeine lover. So how many years were you kind of working in parallel? Was that 2 or 3 years before kind of you got laid off? 2 years. Okay.
Yep. The 2013 to 15. Yep.
Okay. And then was the layoff like surprise, or were you kind of expecting it, or walk me through that?
So all of it is intertwined really well. So I'll rewind a little bit. In 2014, I finally read The 4-Hour Workweek at that point. And I think after, just ad nauseum talking to my wife about all this stuff, I was like, let's do the dream line, which for people that don't know, you write down your dreams, you apply a timeline. It's an exercise in the 4-Hour Workweek, and you could look it up on Tim's blog and go through it yourself. So we did this in 2014, and we wrote out our dreams, mapped it. And, one of mine was like move to Colorado, which we now live in, and like have a house with a mountain view, which if you get on the very edge of our yard and stand on your tiptoes, like you can see a couple peaks. It's kind of a cheat, but we live in Colorado now. So that was kind of a trigger for both of us to think. We grew up in the Atlanta area. We both went to Georgia Tech. We can move. We work remotely now. We can move. We've been doing slow travel for, a couple years. Why don't we sell our condo? We want to check out some of the parks in Montana and Wyoming, Glacier and Yellowstone. So why don't we spend about 3 months out there? Maybe we'll end up in Colorado on the way back. So we sold the condo, put the stuff in storage, drove out with our dog, spent a month in Whitefish, Montana near Glacier. Then we stopped in Bozeman for 6 weeks to check out Yellowstone, check out the town. And we loved it in Bozeman. So we just moved there. We didn't move to Colorado at that point. We just got a lease in Bozeman, Montana. Then I called my team, I called my boss and said, hey, we moved. I didn't tell them that we were traveling. Didn't tell them anything, right? So it wasn't a huge surprise that I got laid off, but I called my boss and said, hey, like we're all working remotely. Would love to work it out. Here's my new address. Here's the deal. And it wasn't a negotiation. It wasn't a ask. It was just like, here's the deal. And they said, okay, like we'll try to work it out. And they laid me off like 2 weeks later. Turns out it was like the front end of downsizing. So like the team was shrinking, but I made the job easier for them. And, in hindsight, like a lot of people to have an entrepreneurial spirit, the layoff was actually a great thing. Like I didn't have the balls to quit on my own, but if they let me go, I was like, great. Now I have a chance to build my own business.
So at that point when you got laid off, were you like every single month able to replace your income from the full-time job, or were you like, okay, I've done it, but not like maybe consistently, now I got to like double down and get focused? Like, how did that work?
Yeah. So it was the latter for sure. I think I was making about $1,500 to $2,000 per month. And at the time that I was laid off, I was making like a little over 6 figures. So, pretty good, nothing crazy depending on your, cost of living and all that stuff. The very good thing is my wife had a full-time job, so she was able to work remotely, and we were able to get her healthcare benefits and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely like made the pressure a little less. So I was making some money and I knew I could make more.
Yeah. How long did you have to like put in the effort to really like get it back up to consistently replacing your full-time income?
It was about 6 months. So I think I got laid off. My last day was the end of July 2015. And I didn't learn my lesson. I dabbled in probably like 6 areas of business. that were, some were, half of them were profitable. And then by the beginning of the next year, I was able to, get my shit together, figure out what I wanted to work on that was also profitable. And I was able to work it out from there, then pretty consistently like build. And another theme we'll get to is like realize like, okay, this is as big as I want to build this. And I don't need to try to grow as big as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So about 6 months, which with a couple years of work ahead of time, like that's not bad. I mean, I hear a lot of people, it takes like a few years to get your feet under you.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to dig in more to like the business that you actually built, like what it does, if someone's interested in doing it, like kind of like what are the steps, like what are the resources. So let's dive into niche site, SEO, affiliate marketing, etc. So walk us through like what is a niche site?
So typically, and people may hear this as like authority site or content site, and basically you're publishing informational content and product reviews on your website. And the informational content, it could be definitions or just information about a topic. A lot of times these are how-to articles, and the product reviews are, just what they sound like. And we could use an example. I've been baking bread, even though I try to stay away from carbs. I love bread, and I used to do sourdough all the time. So we use sourdough as an example. So I was Googling, sourdough bread recipes or something like that. And there's, websites that you can go find out there, and they'll take you step by step on, how to grow your own sourdough culture and cultivate that, the recipes, like all the details, right? It's a whole counterculture out there. And there are a bunch of products too, right? So it could be like the vessels that you might need. It could be thermometers. There's a lot of different products that you can review. And if you refer someone, say, over to Amazon with your affiliate link, then you can get a small commission, somewhere between like, say, 1% and 5% or so. And small percentage sometimes, doesn't sound like very much, but a lot of people order from Amazon, very low friction. You can order from your phone. You could yell at Alexa to order something. So people order a ton of stuff on Amazon. So even though it could be a small commission, it actually adds up if you have enough traffic. And the idea is you rank your site in Google. So if someone searches for, best sourdough culturing vessel, a website or several websites will pop up, and then you may take a look. So I was writing articles like that and how-to articles, or eventually I was hiring writers to write a lot more, because one of my skills was building teams, hiring people, onboarding, job aids, templates, systems. So I was like, oh, I know how to do all this other infrastructure stuff. I could hire a bunch of people pretty easily from Upwork and then get them to write. So I would have these websites with, several hundred articles. I would have an editor, I would have a content manager, and I was just sort of a general manager or project manager, orchestrating the whole thing. And that's the main idea. And there's, display ads, there's different companies. People can think of like AdSense, but there's like Mediavine, Ezoic, handful of others. There's a lot of different ad networks out there. So those are the main pieces of the puzzle there.
Yeah. So just out of kind of like personal interest, because I don't know a ton about like SEO, like what are some like takeaway strategies that people can utilize to like improve the SEO of their website, whether they're doing, a niche site or they're just trying to get more traffic to their website for whatever business they're doing?
I love long tail keywords. So typically these are lower search volume and they're more specific. There's less competition for those. And like I said, they're less search volume. So you're not going to get as much traffic to those posts, but they're much easier to rank for. And you don't have to get into as many like SEO tactics, we'll call them, like link building and stuff, which can be a bit of a drain. And Google doesn't necessarily love that. So I don't want to go too deep into a rabbit hole here. But if you look for these long tail keywords, there's less competition. Often you can write an article, rank in Google pretty quickly afterwards, and it helps build topical relevancy around a specific topic. So we'll use the sourdough idea here. If you have a lot of articles about, let's say, sourdough rise times, I don't know if that's exactly a thing. I'm not in the counterculture of sourdough. I make bread every now and then. But the point is, rise times, there may be a bunch of different questions and topics around that. Mm-hmm. So if you write several articles, you may be one of the most complete resources on the internet because you have 6 articles about a very obscure topic. So you may rank because you're covering that really well, and Google sees you as an authority because you spent the time to go down these very obscure topics. So that's a pretty straightforward way. And if you're into your topic area, you're into the niche that you're writing about, which I hope most of us are, some of the nuances and the details of that particular topic area. So common questions that people ask, and you could cover those really thoroughly. Maybe take pictures yourself, so you have like custom images, not stock images that everyone else has online.
I love that. That's some great takeaways for anyone who's just trying to create more traffic for themselves, is like identify, almost like niche within your niche that you can really just like build several pieces of content around. And then that will help, like anytime someone searches for that, you're going to like rank really high. And then that will drive more traffic to your site and, help fill up whatever, business service that you're offering, or digital products or courses, etc. So,
yeah. And, just piggybacking on top of that, when I'm kind of getting into YouTube Shorts, that's the only short form content that I'm aiming towards right now. I'm trying to stay off social media generally, but if you looked at repurposing content, that would be a great way. So you cover like one small question that you could answer in 30 seconds or a minute. Like, that's a great way. It's a very discrete piece of information. It's solving one problem. You don't have to talk about a bunch of other stuff. So if you had like some TikToks or Reels that were performing well and you covered one topic, maybe that's a great topic to write about, or vice versa, right? You can repurpose this content all over the place. And I encourage you to do that. Like if you figured out how to answer a question, answer it in different formats and meet people where they're at. So maybe they don't want to read a blog, but they'll watch your 45-second video.
The question I want to ask is, how do you connect, say, like a blog and Instagram Reels, like in terms so that like they're cross-pollinating, right? So like, I'm just thinking through, my own, like a recent reel I did was basically like my office setup that I have. Like, I have a walking treadmill, I have a bike seat, I have an adjustable desk, I have multiple different chairs, like I have a balancing board, and like I created a reel around it in collaboration with the company that made the desk, FlexiSpot, and we did a collaboration post. But then I'm like, how could I like repurpose that onto my blog to like kind of like go down, like, so part of like a niche within a niche of entrepreneurship is like a home office setup, right? Like, and so like, how would I take that reel? Would I then go write a blog article that has pictures of my custom setup and then like use all the keywords around like work from home and home office setup and, treadmill desk and all that stuff? Like, help me think. And I'm just trying to give the audience like a real, like how they start to pair the two, social media and kind of website building.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So I think, like you said, you can take pictures and that would be fine. I'm not 100% sure, but I think you might be able to embed the reel into your blog post. Is that something you might be able to do?
I think that's possible. I'm sure it's probably possible, or at least some form of it.
Right.
So that would be one way.
Yeah. Well, the tough part, one, social media is a big time suck for me, and I'm not a better person at the end of it. So I've been trying to wean myself off. It's addictive though. I'm not perfect, but I try to stay out of there. The reason why I'm playing with YouTube Shorts is because there's a clear path to like get people from YouTube Shorts to my YouTube channel, and then from the YouTube channel to my email list, which is my goal. And that there's an easier path. And I have a following on YouTube where like if I went to any of the other platforms, I'd be starting from scratch, and it's not something I love to create anyway. So it's a no-go for me for like TikTok, Instagram, Reels. But inside the YouTube ecosystem, like I'll put up with a little, whatever bullshit I need to.
Yeah. So let's say like, let's flip it. And I'm just thinking through the thought experiments. Okay. If we don't get anywhere, worst case scenario, we can always cut this segment. But I'm just like thinking through it because like one of my favorite platforms is Instagram. So, but I could translate it to YouTube. So let's say like I created like a YouTube short around, this like standing desk or home office like setup. Could I then like, and that performed really well. I could then do like a longer YouTube video about it that is kind of like much longer than, 90 seconds, but maybe is like 3 to 5 minutes about the setup. And then that could, either direct people to like kind of like a detailed blog about each one of the pieces of equipment in it and kind of like some theories. And then that blog post as well as the YouTube would have like direction to get people to sign up to the email list.
You got it. Yeah, 100%. And you can put the YouTube video, you could embed that in the blog post, and you could put the link to the blog post in the description of the YouTube video and the YouTube short. And you could put your, email opt-in in each one of the descriptions for those. So there is a route on the YouTube side. All the platforms want to keep you on their site, but you can give people a route. And I mean, I've been dabbling around and watching and checking what other successful YouTubers are doing. And I watch a lot of food videos. So, I see what they're putting links to. So yeah, that's definitely a route. And like I mentioned before, I mean, if you could repurpose the content, that's great. Like you've already done the hard work and the outline, what you're going to talk about. And it should be, pretty straightforward to do, the longer form 3 to 5 minute tour. And you could, give more of your thoughts and like expand and like give more context for, your whole setup.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. I want to talk about building an email list because I just kind of decided, funny enough, the last week or two, I was like, I need to like really build up my email list. Cause like one day I hope to like write a book. And I know like in terms of having like a huge email list, that is like one of the things that can really make your book successful is because you have a bunch of engaged people. And so I just been thinking through like, how do I actually like build up my email list? So I'm curious how you did it and kind of also just your most updated thoughts and strategies around email list building.
The most successful things that I did, luckily it's the same idea. It's just, different formats as the years have moved forward. Mm-hmm. So essentially no one wants more email.
Yeah.
And they don't care about you and they don't care to get emails from you unless you could help them somehow. If you're entertaining, that helps too. But basically I provided resources of some kind. Usually it's a tool. So I created like spreadsheets that help someone do something faster. And it could be, some financial, I didn't do this exactly, but like it could be like a personal finance type calculator, right? Some template to use. So those are super popular. I don't like longer form things. So ebook, very low chance anyone's going to read it. I mean, if you spend a lot of time and you put together like 100-page ebook, I mean, you're better off with a one-pager. Like they can see the value and get it right away. So when you're competing with everything else in the world, including short form content like TikTok and Reels, like you got to make it quick. So a one-pager is great. A tool is great. One thing that I'm playing with right now that it took me a little while to get started on this, but with some of the AI tools, I've started to put together like resources, and essentially it's just like tutorials and some specific commands and prompts that you can use for AI tools. And for people that aren't familiar, there's stuff like Jasper or ChatGPT from OpenAI. And you can give commands to these tools to get certain outputs, right? So they can do all sorts of things, which we may talk a little bit more about in this conversation. But basically, I put together these resources, and it's inside my course platform. It's free. I made it all free. But I'll go to YouTube and create a video, show people how to do something, and then at the end, I'll say, hey, there's free resources you can get. There's a link in the description. You just have to sign up. I let them know what the expectations are. They'll have to give their email so I can send them the login information. And it's inside a course platform, but it's free. So that's a strong resource. And it's not necessarily long form. There is some, longer form content, but there's some shorter form so people can get value right away. And that's my goal. Give them like free value as quickly as possible so that they can see it and use it. And then they trust you. And there's the rule of reciprocity, so they feel a little bit warm towards you. They'll give you their email address. You provided a little value, and they'll engage with you, read the other emails that I'll send. So what have you tried, by the way, with your email list?
So I literally just wrote this down this weekend because I basically retooled my email list. So we'll shout out both our email lists in this episode because we're talking about it. So I realized in my own experience, my colleagues, clients, friends, and family, the three things they always ask me about is fitness, money, and like how to live a good life. So I was thinking through that, and I was like, fitness, money, life, FML, like fuck my life. I was like, that's a great title for an email list.
That's good.
So I rebranded just this weekend, literally my email list to Alchemize FML newsletter, or FML newsletter for short. So it's like, if you're humorous, you can be like how to unfuck your fitness, money, and life, or how to alchemize your fitness, money, and life to the next level. And so what I wrote down this weekend is like, I need to build some sort of like thing that I can give away that will entice them to sign up, whether that's like a financial money tracker that I use with my coaching clients, or, some sort of like one pager that is like, teaches them how to do something around, mastering their fitness or their body. And so when you're like, you need to give them value, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the universe telling me I need to create like a giveaway in order to get them to like sign up for the email list, and then start to build, trust and credibility and reciprocity with somebody who may not know me, right? The other thing that I did just recently is like, I went onto LinkedIn because I was going to like tell people about my email list. And then I realized LinkedIn just released this new feature where you can write a newsletter on LinkedIn, because of course they want you to stay in their ecosystem. And so I just repurposed my email newsletter, the edition 1 of FML, and I just put it on LinkedIn. But then within that, I put a link to sign up for my actual newsletter. So basically it notifies everyone in your LinkedIn network that you have this newsletter now, and they can like easily just follow it and subscribe to it. And so like one of the strategies I'm thinking through is like, okay, like I at least spend some time, or I give some of my email newsletter away on LinkedIn, and then maybe I'll like, after I give it away for free, eventually I say like, hey, I'm now only giving a third of it on LinkedIn. If you want the rest, join my actual newsletter, or something like that. And these are just strategies I'm thinking of in real time, because like I don't have like a massive email list. Like, I have thousands of people. I don't have tens of thousands of people yet. And so I got a long way to go. So these are just some of the things that I've been thinking about. Also utilizing Instagram to get people to join. And I mean, the way I initially built my email list was I just messaged all my friends on LinkedIn and said, hey, I'm starting an email list around X, Y, and Z. Would you like to join? And because they actually knew me, they're like, sure. So now that was super time intensive, but it got me kind of that like initial groundswell that then allowed me to like, kind of get the like a email base that I could then build from. And so I've been thinking about like, do I hire out like somebody to like sit in my Instagram and DM everybody to come onto my email list? Or like, is there some like way that I can utilize? Because my biggest following is on Instagram, because it shows, because it's my favorite tool to create on. Just like, some people really love, like you love YouTube. So those are kind of some of my initial thoughts, but I'm just curious, like, I know you built up your email list for your niche site. What were some of the strategies you used, and like, what are some additional strategies that you would, obviously you talked about the giveaway, but is there like other stuff, like, certain strategies on YouTube that you can use? Or
So largely I'm a one-trick pony, but I can give a couple other ideas that I know can work if you put enough time. I just never have personally. So contests can work. So people have probably seen these or entered them yourselves, but basically, you're giving something away, and if people share it on different platforms, then they get additional entries into the contest. And that can work. And you may need to think, pretty hard about the kind of people you want on your list. So people that want free stuff and they want to win a contest, like, they may not be good customers specifically, but it depends on how you're monetizing your email list and your audience and your whole business model. But contests, they can work pretty well. As far as maybe going a little bit deeper with the specific giveaway, and YouTube is like showing people the specific template or tool or whatever, like show them, like, here's how I'm using the, budget calculator and, financial management sheet. And you go through all of it. And of course, they see the sheet, like they could recreate it if they wanted to, but it's much easier if you just say, hey, if you want this, there's a link in the description, you could go sign up, which, like I said, kind of a one-trick pony, like that has worked really well for me.
Yeah.
It's just in different formats. So one of my first big podcast appearances, I was a success story on one of the shows that I listened to, and into the interview, and I cleared it with the host ahead of time. I said, I have a free resource. It's a template. Like, I want to give it away to your listeners. And, can we put the link and I'll announce it at the end? He said, sure, no problem. And, huge spike of traffic. And, I think that may have been my biggest day as far as the number of new subscribers that signed up. And it was like within 2 months of me starting the blog, and I've never gotten close to that again. It just was the right topic, the right day, the right delivery. Like, people weren't bored of hearing from me. At that point, I didn't have my own show at the time. So worked really well, and I've never been able to recreate it. I mean, people still do that. And I see some of my friends that make the podcast rounds, and you could do this on any format, right? Whether you're joining someone for like an Instagram live or YouTube live, like, you can do the same thing. It's just different formats and meeting the audience in whatever a platform they enjoy consuming.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Veg Nutrition. Live better. So I'm actually a Veg elite athlete. And before I joined the team, I spent months doing my due diligence to make sure that the company was vision, mission, and value aligned with me, my values, my mission, my vision, and my lifestyle. I got to know the owners super well. I even got to know the person who formulates all the products, and they passed with flying colors. So I couldn't be more excited to represent a company that I feel so aligned with. And I want to tell you about two of my favorite products. The first is the Veg Pre-Workout. So when I first went vegan, or mostly vegan, the last thing for me to go fully vegan was finding a vegan pre-workout that gave me the focus, the energy, and the power that I was looking for. And I can tell you, this is the best pre-workout that I've ever had. It gives me incredible focus and energy. And what's probably the best is it leaves me with no crash after I take it, which is great. And the flavors are so freaking good. There's literally peach mango and a Patriot Pop that tastes like, the firecracker popsicles, cherry lemon lime flavor. They're literally so good that I can dry scoop them. And they just released a watermelon flavor for just in time for summer, and it's incredible. So that's the first product. The second product is arguably also my favorite, and that's the plant protein. Comes in 3 incredible flavors: chocolate peanut butter, vanilla ice cream, and cold brew coffee. Yep, you heard me. Cold brew coffee flavor. It tastes incredible, all 3 flavors, 25 grams of protein, fully organic, incredible ingredients, heavy metal tested, and it is my go-to post-workout. Make sure that I'm recovering and refueling and giving my muscles the protein that they need to rebuild for that next workout. So go to vegnutrition.com/dragon and try their full line of supplements, and you'll get 15% off. Or you can just use Dragon at checkout and you'll get 15% off. So that's vegnutrition.com/dragon to get 15% off. Veg Nutrition, live better.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2 additional kind of ideas to just build on that. So one of the things that's really successful on Instagram is giveaways, like of some sort of product, whether it's a supplement or, some fitness tool or some actual physical product, a book or anything like that. And so like tool that people could use is like, instead of like just like a follow, like you have to follow, it's like you could do the giveaway, but say like you have to sign up for my email newsletter, link is in my bio, and then from people who sign up, we will choose one of them randomly and like basically, use that because giveaways to get new followers is like a for sure on Instagram. That like always works. And if you do a collaboration post with the company that has the product, that's an even bigger way. And then because people are like, oh, I just have to like, and normally how it works is they just like tag their friends. And then the more people they tag, the more entries they get. But you could kind of like modify that to get people to actually sign up for your email newsletter. So I totally forgot to even say what FML newsletter is. So it's weekly tips, tools, and strategies to alchemize your fitness, money, and life to the next level. So it's just like 3 quick, punchy things. Here's one for fitness, here's one for money, and here's one for life. Because like I realized I really enjoy writing, and I wanted to create like basically a forcing function for myself to like write a little bit about fitness and money and life each week. Because I do this with like my clients one-on-one, but I wanted to give more value this year. And I was like, oh, this is a good way I could take like a nugget of something I'm, giving to my clients and like give that in an email as like more value to, maybe the people who don't like have the resources to sign up for like, one-on-one coaching or something like that. So I assume your email newsletter is all kind of around your niche authority site. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So I cover SEO and niche sites and things that are generally related to it. I dabble in some other areas with like productivity or, lifestyle stuff, but I usually stick pretty tightly in the content area. That said, I mean, because it's my own brand, I do throw in like random stuff occasionally. Yeah. It's the same deal with my podcast. Like I don't have to do anything specific. So if I just feel like telling stories about a trip that I went on, then sometimes people just end up with like a weird story time, like they're just hanging out with me, which, I mean, they know that's what they're getting. Be a weird one for the first time someone listened to the show, but like if you listen for a while, you're like, oh, this is a story time. This is not actionable, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to circle back to actionable stuff, because one of the questions I had as I was researching you and kind of your entrepreneurial journey is like, who is like niche site for? Like what type of person would be like a good fit? Because, I was thinking through, myself and my clients, and I'm like, who could I recommend this to that would be like a really good fit? And who should I like, what type of people should I like say, like, you should probably steer away from this?
So I have at least two main types of people that probably should check it out. So the first, and this is like most common in my audience, is people like me, right? So I think often our audiences attract people that are a lot like us. So, I'm middle-aged, I'm 43. I worked in IT and I didn't like the job that much, but I was okay at it. So, and I had like some, disposable income to invest in a side business, and I was interested in side hustles. So there's a lot of, IT people that just don't like their job, and like my particular, brand ends up attracting a lot of those folks. Similarly, right? So it's a, broad spectrum of people, but there's, a whole other set of people who they're kind of in the IT area, but maybe they don't have the similar background as me, but they're kind of in the IT area. Maybe they know a little SEO or they've done some writing, and they're like, I know people are making money with websites and I'm just not sure how. And then they'd go deeper, like, how do you make money with websites? And they get into affiliate marketing, and then they figure out like this whole ecosystem, which on the surface, externally, like I said, it looks like commission rates are quite low. Like, who cares if you're making a couple dollars on selling a product? But if you're selling hundreds of them a day, like, adds up. And if you could do it relatively passively, like once it's set up, then it becomes a lot more interesting. So that's one set, kind of IT folks. The other people, these are the folks that tend to be the most successful, and they don't have an IT background at all. They're people that enjoy writing, they love writing. Maybe they have done freelance writing, or they have an English degree, but they ended up doing whatever, insurance adjusting or some other kind of thing. But like they like writing, they like reading, they like the written word. They do really well because they're great communicators, and they probably have some good writing chops. I came into this as an engineer who couldn't write my way out of a wet paper bag, and I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't take any entrepreneurship classes. Like, I started with zero knowledge. I didn't know anything about email marketing, video. I wasn't a good speaker. Like, I didn't know any of this shit at all. Writers do really well because they have like the core set of skills that you need to do for a website, which is write. So those are the two main sets of people. The other offshoot of the writers would be people that were, maybe they don't identify as like a writer or a strong writer, but they had enough interest in blogging to start a blog or a social media channel where they actually, so let's say it's Instagram, they actually do write long form posts in there and they spend a lot of time on it. I don't. I publish like a picture of beer and I'm like, yum, right? Like, I spend no time on it. So people that are trying to write some.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I treat my Instagram like a microblog. Like, I literally max out the number of words every single time. And I always have to cut. I have to like cut it down because it's like, for me, it's like just a microblogging platform. Perfect. So yeah. And I was someone who always wanted to blog, but like I kind of found more success with Instagram because the ability to kind of use media with written word, and now like the fact that you can do videos and it's really easy to like cut stuff together. Like, I've always wanted to do YouTube as well, but I'm just like, I don't have the patience to do post-production. So I have to like choose to like hire somebody out if I want to ever do YouTube, which I'm like now kind of like debating, because ultimately that's how I started my podcast too. The reason it took me 5 years to start my podcast is because for 5 years I told myself I'd teach myself how to produce it. And then eventually I was like, I am never going to produce this. I just need to like hire it out. So I hired it out, and now like I have, over 30 episodes and like haven't missed a single week. So I think that's a question about the niche site stuff. So I know typically WordPress is kind of like go-to, tool. When I first started blogging, used WordPress, and then I was like, this shit is so clunky and crash it, like it'll just break and then you have to like fix it. And then I discovered Squarespace, and I was like, this stuff never breaks. I never have to like update anything. It runs on itself. So I switched to Squarespace. So I'm just curious, can you do a niche site on Squarespace, or do you have to use WordPress?
You can use Squarespace. You could, use any platform, any content management system, CMS that you want to. Typically people will work on WordPress. And if you were going to sell your site, it would be a little bit more friction, because someone would think, I need to transfer it over to WordPress most likely. So there's more plugins and tools and accessories that you can get on WordPress. But, Squarespace is fine. I know a few people that I've worked with, they have e-commerce brands and drop shipping. So they're on a Shopify platform, and they just put a Shopify blog there, and they're doing, they have a full affiliate marketing blog along with their e-commerce shop. So it's agnostic. You can put the links anywhere that you want to, that, technically can accept links.
Yeah. Yeah. I always compared like Squarespace to like the Apple iPhone and WordPress to like an Android. And I was like, I'm like an Apple person all the way. Like, I just love like user interface, ease of use, like beautiful, that great combination of the, kind of like beauty and function.
Sure.
Okay. Like, how do we weave in FI here? When did you discover financial independence? When did you become financially independent? How did that enter the picture?
So in 2014, I lightly became aware of FI, maybe a little bit earlier. So, through Smart Passive Income, that was sort of the gateway, the inflection point. I jumped off and listened to a bunch of other podcasts from there. So around that same time, my wife and I realized that we didn't know what to do with the money that we were accumulating. So we were far enough in our career. We were, debt free except for our house. Yeah, just our mortgage payment. That was the only debt that we had. And we were trying to figure out what we were doing with our money. I had a financial advisor who was really an insurance agent, which is another story. So I had a whole life plan, which was dumb. But I didn't know any better at the time. Luckily, I did other things well. And she had a financial advisor that she was introduced to from her father, and worked with her brothers as well. So he was kind of a family person. And we realized that we were, number one, accumulating money. So I think we each had like 6 figures in like savings accounts at that time, which, we got burned in the .com bubble and in the Great Recession. So we were like kind of hesitant. We didn't want to make a decision on like what to do with the money. So we just like left it in the savings account. Dumb move, right? We also realized that our self-managed 401ks were outperforming our financial advisors. So we chatted with them, realized we should fire them. My wife did a little research, and she ended up on Mr. Money Mustache's blog, like many of us, and discovered index funds. So we did a little research, went the index fund route, and we didn't really pay much attention. I know some people, they find Pete's blog and then they read everything. They read everything he wrote up to that point, hundreds of blog posts. But we were like, this is cool. We did our research and moved on. And then I think I heard Pete on a couple podcast interviews over the years. One of the big ones was with Tim Ferriss in 2017. So that one, I know a lot of people found Pete through that. I mean, very popular before that, but like that got him like on the radar for like Tim's audience, which I have like all of Tim's books like sitting right behind me right there.
Yeah.
And
that's the one that got me. That's how I discovered Mr. Money Mustache. Awesome. And Mr. Money Mustache is how I got into FI as well. But back to your story.
Perfect. Yeah. That one like was really powerful, and listened to it a couple times, got my wife to check it out. And I was like, oh man, like my business is taking off. So that was 2017. I was 2 years in. At that point, I was making, over twice as much as I would have been making at my old full-time job, which I don't think I ever could have earned that much if I stayed at that job for like, 25 more years. Like I was doing well. And I was like, we can probably like retire like sometime. Now my wife is more conservative. So she was like pretty hesitant to buy in, and like 4% rule or like 3%. I don't know. Like she's not as flexible, but we were into it, and we were starting to track our net worth starting in 2014. And like there were mostly up years, a couple level ones, and things were going pretty good. And technically I think 2019 is when I sort of considered that we hit FI. If it's debatable, like I said, if someone thinks it's a 5% rule versus a 3% rule, then there's some debate. But we have a decent nest egg. We luckily, even though we didn't have great financial advisors, we maxed out 401ks. We made some smart decisions in our early 20s, which really paid off as compound interest kicks in 15, 20 years later. Things are fine. And, my wife is actually still working. She's trimmed it down to 3 days per week, which is great. And then, I'm still working. I never actually retired. I just ended up trimming back my business so that I'm only working on what I want and take a lot of time off. So I never felt the need to like retire just because of the way everything sort of weaved together, laid off, build my business. I understand what I want to work on. So I don't feel like a drive to quit a job that really drains me or something.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about some FI topics, because one of the things that I've really been looking at with myself and various audience members that have come on the show is kind of that transition from like, I call it kind of like the frugality to like FI abundance transition. And it's, where you go from being like ultra frugal and kind of like hyper focused on building wealth to more like, how do I build the best life for me utilizing the tool of money? And so I'm just curious to get kind of your thoughts about, slowing down after hitting FI, or, really like proactively using the power of FI to build your best life.
Before I answer that, I'll jump back. One other interesting thing is my wife and I ended up moving to Longmont, which is the same town that Mr. Money Mustache lives in. So just randomly, right? She got a job in Boulder. Longmont's pretty close and a little bit cheaper. So now I'm like a member of his co-working space and know a lot of the crew around here. So just weirdly, like my life weaved in, and, Pete lives down the street, couple miles away. So kind of funny. So one thing is like my wife and I we were kind of on the frugal side, but not too much. We realized were certain things that we really enjoyed, and we would pay a premium for those kind of things. We did identify some areas that weren't as important and weren't a priority, and we trimmed those expenses down and, treated them as a low priority. So, quick example is like our cars. Like we don't care too much. We do have 2 cars. Like we probably should trim down to 1, but we're not, like I said, overly frugal. So I have a 2005 F-150 that I bought in like 2006. So it's been paid off for a long time. I don't drive it very much. She has a Honda CR-V. It's like 11 years old. So like, it's not a big deal. And I know for some people, cars are important. They get some happiness from it. They're joyful, whatever. That's cool. And they want to get a newer car or something fancier or whatever floats their boat. For us, we just don't care. And, it just gets us around. Not a big deal. And our friends kind of have the same value. So again, here in Longmont, a lot of us are driving like the crappiest cars on our street. But no one seems to care. So,
yeah. But you're all millionaires, so who cares?
Yeah. We just don't look like it. We dress really poorly and we have crappy cars. So yeah, the transition has been a little bit interesting, but I learned the lessons from people that were ahead of me, I think. So I knew this was coming, and I do have some friends that like retired. They hit depression for, the first 6 months. Like they didn't know quite what to do, and they didn't know how to throttle down their type A personality. Maybe they just always took on a lot of projects or something like that. And then all of a sudden they have a big void to fill and they don't know quite what to do. And on the other side, I built my business and had pieces running. I had the opportunity to, grow and try to scale and, see if I could, earn even more money. But I realized that, well, one, I wasn't that ambitious, and like, what else am I going to do with more money? So, and I still, I have friends, and that's the kind of a balance. I'm curious with you, Justin, like how you deal with this, but like some friends that are like, oh, I want to make $100K per month. I'm like, what are you going to, like, you're already doing really well. What are you going to do with $100K per month? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I just know that guy is making that much.
Yeah.
And if he could do it, then I could do it. And I'm like, I don't care how much, like, that's a race I'm never going to win. That's a game I don't want to play. Like, there's always someone, better or faster or with more hair. You have really thick hair, Justin. I'm bald, wearing a hat right now. But yeah, there's people with more hair, younger, stronger, whatever. And that's like a game that I don't want to play because you're just not going to win that one. So as I was faced with the decision to like grow the business, or like, am I pretty good just to coast right now? I opted for coasting, and I started building in long vacation times. So I didn't do as good last year in 2022, but for I think 3 years, I took 2 to 3 months off. Now I would maybe check an email, but I would record podcast ahead of time. I would work ahead, so I felt like the busyness, a sprint of work. But then I could like unplug, fuck off, like just not worry about it, and know everything is gonna be okay. And it gave me time to get a little bit bored, spend time outside, exercise more, like focus on certain areas that were a high priority for me. So I really like cultivated a slower paced lifestyle because I knew that I was really busy before and I needed to like throttle down maybe in sort of stages. So I'm just busy enough and I could take a lot of time off.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Fit Rich Vegan. If you're ready to get in the best shape of your life, double your income, and 10x your savings and investments, then this is the coaching program for you. But wait a minute, Dragon. Isn't this your coaching program? Heck yeah, it is. I spent the last 8 years mastering my fitness and my finances, and I've built an incredible coaching program with an incredible team to help you get the body of your dreams and finally achieve that level of financial success that you've been seeking. So if you want to find out if you're a good fit for the program, go to fitrichvegan.com and book your free consultation today. Or you can just DM me on Instagram with the words FitRichVegan, and we can chat about if it's going to be a good fit for you. I'm committed to empowering people to actually achieve their fitness and financial goals. I spent the last 20 years trying to figure this out on my own. And what I realized is the key to doing it is not doing it alone. You have to have coaches, you have to have mentors, and you have to be a part of masterminds. And that's exactly what Fit Rich Vegan has. It has coaches, mentors, and it is a mastermind. So again, if you're ready to book your free consultation today, go to fitrichvegan.com or drop me a DM on Instagram.
Yeah. No, I love that. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about just in terms of building, a life worth living for is what game or games are you playing, right? And so like the make $100K a month game or, and I'm guilty of this. So like I hit millionaire status and a multimillionaire, and then I was like, now I want to be a decamillionaire. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as that's not the only goal and not the main driving goal. So when I was pursuing financial independence, initially, I kind of made this commitment myself that I am going to have, I'm going to pursue financial independence while having the most fun and feeling the most free as possible. And as long as that freedom and fun were kind of leading the charge, then I could play as hard as I want. You know what I mean? And I did the 5 thing really fast. When I finally discovered it, I kind of went like, similar to your story, there's some luck in it, good timing, right place. But like, I was happy to put in the work. So that's one of the big reasons I'm kind of, really interested in this conversation right now is I'm trying to figure out what the right speed for me is now. And I'm kind of having to test the different speeds to kind of see like what feels good and what doesn't. And one of the kind of games that I've been thinking about is for me is the impact game. Like, how much impact am I having, positive impact in the lives of others? And if I am having fun doing that while feeling free, having fun, and like doing all the other things that I love to do, like, fitness, time in nature, time with my wife, plenty of sleep, lots of meditation, eating well, traveling, then like I can make as much money as possible, like while I maintain those. But if the money making starts to eat like the quality of my life or consume it, then I need to like reevaluate. And I think, at least in my own life, that's kind of like an iterative process, because I'm like, I have to feel it out. Like, okay, am I making the impact that I want, but I'm not like burning myself out? And, I think I'm one of those people who has to kind of like try it to like be like, it was too much.
Right.
And that's kind of what I did the last half of last year is like, I launched a podcast and a fitness and money coaching program while maintaining my like sales job. And it wasn't like I didn't have enough time in the day, because like I've always been really good at like mastering time. The challenge that I had to face, or what I had to go through, was the mental load of having 3 different like endeavors on my like cognition, right? And going from one to the next to the next, and one to the next and the next. And what I kind of have equated it to is, it's like when you first start like a new workout program, the first few weeks, they're kind of rough because your body's like doesn't know what it's doing. It's mentally hard because you have to make sure you know how to do each movement, each exercise, and you're kind of like learning the program. And so what I kind of have found in my own life is like, okay, that normally takes a few weeks in a like fitness program. It's probably going to take a few months or even like up to a year. And so I'm kind of like in that middle where I'm starting to feel like I really got a hang of these 3 different endeavors, and I still get, enough sleep, and like I have enough downtime and enough time with my wife, enough time to work out, etc. But like I was definitely at times like, holy shit, I'm energetically exhausted because I'm trying to balance 3 different things all at the same time, and I'm not used to it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I'm definitely test the limits and go a little too far and then pull it back. Like I think I have to do that too.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% right. So like I have 2 podcasts and the 2 YouTube channels, which basically I just rebroadcast. But I started my own YouTube channel technically say like 2017. And then it was 2 years later, I started the podcast. And then it was 2 years after that I started the other podcast. And it's not too bad now. Like I have it down, and I've done for my Doug Show podcast, which covers the affiliate marketing stuff. Like I've done 2 shows per week since the beginning of 2019. Never missed, anything. But yeah, I mean, it's challenging, but it does give me kind of like you said, it's like I have 2 things that I have to deliver each week. I could plan ahead. Like I know that I'm going to do it. I can always rebroadcast if I have to, but only done that a handful of times. And yeah, it's been good. And I'm used to it now. It's not too bad to deliver 2 shows per week. But if you're just starting a show and you're like, all right, you have to do an audio podcast and you got to publish on YouTube as well, like then that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, that's like, so I I love that you kind of did it every 2 years. You added like a layer. I added 2 layers at the same time, and that kind of like kicked my ass for a little bit. Like I'm okay now, but like the first 3 to 4 months, I was like, I'm fucking tired just because I'm like not used to carrying this much on my plate all at the same time. And now it's all starting to like, 6 months into both the new projects, it's starting to calm down. And, I'm going on vacation later this week. So, and one of the reasons, so the podcast is great because you can pre-record. You can get a bunch of content already, and then you can go on vacation for however long you want. And the reason I partnered with a business partner for the fitness and money coaching program is so if I want to go take a few weeks off or even a month, like he can coach on my behalf, and we have a whole kind of like team, and like I don't, I can like actually go take a break, like, you know what I mean? Whereas I feel like a lot of times like coaches, if they're doing it by themselves, they almost can't take a break because they can't take a break from their clients. But I did it in a way where I could take a break if I wanted to. And so it's interesting, right? And so one of the things I had to do is, because I was like racing towards like Decamillionaire. I was like, I want to just make as much money as possible and like get 10 million and like buy the super nice house in the Bay Area. And I had to like talk to my wife and be like, hey, like I'm going too fast. Like I need to slow down. Like, is it okay if it takes us a little longer to get the dream home in the Bay Area? Because like a dream home in the Bay Area is going to be like 2 to 4 million, right? It's like I live in a really expensive area. But like we live in a really nice home now, but we rent. And so we're kind of getting the best of both worlds where we're financially independent. We live in a really nice home. And fortunately, my wife was like, yeah, it's okay. Like it's okay if it takes longer than a year or two. Like, and so I was able to then like have that talk with my wife, slow myself down so that I could enjoy the journey. Cause I got to this point where I was striving too hard, where like I lost the joy in my life. And I had to like go reevaluate and be like, wait a minute, I'm going too hard, too fast, and I'm not having fun along the way. And like, I need to slow down and make sure like I'm actually on the journey, like presently, and not like so far in the future that I'm like killing myself and killing my life.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing with like goals, which I know we haven't talked like systems versus goals, but like my other buddy that I was talking about, like he cited the 10 million mark, right? It's another nice delineation point. And he's like, yeah, I want to do that. So like I can, whatever, buy houses for relatives and blah, blah, blah. And like, I don't want to apply this judgment on you or my other friend. Yeah. But it's like sometimes I think some people, and I've done it myself, so maybe I'll just apply it to myself so as not to offend anyone. But like I worked more to avoid something I didn't want to deal with. And I think sometimes people are like, all right, earning money is fun. I like the work that I'm doing, working for myself. And I'm just going to just bury myself in work, earn money, be successful. And they're like not dealing with like some demon in their closet, something like that. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not applying that to you, Justin, or my other buddy or anyone else. But like, I see that like, or it might be like a chip on their shoulder, which actually one of my friends, I did say, what do you want to do that? And he was, it's like, do you have a chip on your shoulder? And he's like, yes, I'm ultra competitive. He's like the youngest of like 3 brothers. And he's like, I do have a chip on my shoulder and I want to do all this stuff. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And again, it's like, what's your best life, right? You know what I mean? And for me, it's like, my baselines for me is like, do I have enough time to invest in my fitness, in my marriage, and kind of like the, my spiritual side, nature, and like, am I having enough fun in life? So I work a 4-day work week with all 3 of my businesses. Now, I might record a podcast on a Friday, but that's because it's fun for me. Like I love having conversations like this with people like you. One of my favorite things to do is literally go for a walk and talk. So like one of the things I'll be doing in the near future, because one of the podcasts that I really admire is I'm going to do like a hiking or walking recorded podcast. So I'm just going to like get mics and go walk and talk and do a podcast, because one of the podcasters I really love, he does that like, maybe once a month on his show. And I'm like, fuck yeah. I love listening to the random birds and like, dogs and stuff and like, leaf blower that goes by, because it's like, I feel like I'm walking with them. And so like, that's, I would have these kind of conversations on a Friday anyways. Now, if I can just figure out how to like start to do them walking, that's like kind of the next level of like my happiness while also creating a positive impact.
So I'm curious, technically, how will you do that? Will you just get a couple lav mics and put it on your phone or something like that and record it?
Yeah. So I will literally, there's a couple different ways that I've been looking into doing it. One is I have like a little portable, I think it's a Shure mic. It's just like all built into one. And so one person could hold that. And then I have another mic that plugs into my phone that's also a Shure. And the other person could have that. So each person could speak into a mic while they're walking, and then those two tracks could be synced. Now, there's also one other way to do it, and that is DJI, the company that makes the drones, has a like lavalier mic set, wireless. And so I've been thinking about investing in that, and it's like $350 and trying out that, because then it's two wireless mics that like we could just put them on, forget about them, and go walk. So that's what I'm thinking for kind of how to actually execute it. Now, obviously, the audio quality is not going to be as good as like what you and I are doing now. But I think if the audience loves your show already, they'll deal with a walk.
Yeah. And I was asking because I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I would want to do that. I mean, there's some good, fairly quiet hikes around here. And I have like a couple wireless lav mics that I could hook up and throw the main recorder in my backpack and just like be good, and we could hike and walk and talk and have a pretty solid interview. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah. And there's something really magical that happens when you walk and talk, because like, walking is like a moving meditation, which, I've said this on the show before, but like moving meditation allows you to like tap into the visionary archetype, and the visionary archetype is like the problem solver, right? So like, have you ever noticed, like, if you go for a walk, like, you'll solve a problem in your head, right?
Oh, yeah.
And, like, when you go and walk and talk with somebody, you'll have, like, really deep, incredible conversations, right? Like, on a hike. Like, those are some of the best conversations with my wife is when we're, like, hiking in nature, or one of my good friends. And that's, like, one of my mentors. That's how we always do our mentor meetups, is we go hiking. And so, like, how cool would it be to, like, do that for some podcast? So I highly encourage you to do it. And between the two of us testing it out, eventually we'll figure out how to do the audio, and then we can both have hiking podcasts, walking podcasts on our shows.
I'm going to check it out. Yeah, I'm going to try it.
Boom. Cool. So as we last thing I kind of want to cover on the FI stuff before we kind of transition into a little bit like fitness, you and I definitely want to talk about sleep, is kind of the FI side hustle entrepreneurship, kind of like, it's kind of like three different groups of people, but there's like this shared values. And I think you and I are kind of like in more than one, right? And so I'm just like curious, like, how do we create either more community amongst the three, or like, how do we like connect them better, or, what is like, why are they so siloed?
I know. I think I didn't realize until we talked today, Justin, that like, we see this, right? Like, we see the similar values, but unfortunately, this will sound judgy, but you could pull me on track if I'm off here. Maybe because of social media, it's really easy for the different groups to shit on each other. So it's like an us versus them, instead of like, oh, we actually have like a lot of the same values. It's just, rejiggered a little bit. So I see this in the communities, especially if you go to a FinCon kind of place, like it's quite siloed out, where there's ultra frugal people, and then there's the entrepreneurs, but the entrepreneurs are pretty frugal because they're reinvesting everything. They're like living in a very small place, cutting corners financially so that they could reinvest everything into their business, and they're just frugal in a different way. So I see the commonality, and I think, we have these conversations, like the people that do zoom out a little bit, and you're like, hey, like, if you are interested in a side hustle, but you're frugal, maybe like you can learn some stuff from the entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs can maybe see there's perhaps like more balance in life and you can slow down and like you don't have to earn money as quickly as you possibly can. You can do that, and we're not here to judge. If you want to do that and that makes you happy, that's cool. But like there is a way to slow down and like do other things, spend time with your family or other things that are a high priority. So I think we have to have the conversations and just like bring it up that there are shared values, and there's a lot of shared values. It's just reframed. So what do you think? How do you bridge the gap?
I mean, I think it's literally just like people putting on different clothes. Like we're all people, we're all kind of like pursuing the same thing, which is like, entrepreneurs, they want to work for themselves, right? They want that freedom, right? Financially independent people, they want to be financially independent so they don't have to work for somebody, right? And like people who start a side hustle, again, they want freedom, right? And so the through line is like really like freedom and autonomy is what all of them want, right? And so I think they all have different kind of like superpowers, right? Side hustles are great because they're things that you can do while you're, in a corporate job, right? That will power you to FI. And, if you're an entrepreneur and you're actually, making money, you can actually work your way towards financial independence even faster if you utilize some of the 5 strategies along with the kind of like hyper speed that entrepreneurship can get you to making money, right? And then you can realize like both with entrepreneurship and side hustles, it's like, wait, if you can cover your monthly nut through your entrepreneurship or your side hustle, technically you're financially independent, even if you don't have, the 4% rule achieved. So then you can actually combine the 4% rule or part of it with a side hustle that covers part of your monthly nut, or your entrepreneurial gig that like either you sell your business or your business makes X amount of dollars, which covers part of your monthly nut. So that's why like I love all 3 of them. Right. Yeah. I consider kind of like my podcast is like a passion project, creative project, but also a side hustle that makes money. Right. Entrepreneurship, like I'm part of a Stanford startup. I also have, my fitness and money coaching program. Both of those are entrepreneurial things. But my Stanford startup is also kind of like technically at this point a corporate job. I've been there for 9 years. I'm a salesperson, but like I love it. I don't want to leave. It gives me health insurance. They let me work a 4-day work week. I set my own schedule. They don't care what I do as long as I perform. It's like, I don't have to quit my job just because I'm FI. Like I make great money. I love what we do. I love the people that I work with. Like, I don't want to like stop doing it. And, I think it's also one of those things. It's like, if you incorporate all these strategies, you're so much more robust, right? You're so much more anti-fragile, right? So if like your entrepreneurial pursuit blows up, that's cool. You got another side hustle. You got your corporate job that you actually enjoy. Like, so you're totally protected. Or in your case, you got let go of the corporate job and you're like, sweet, I got some side hustles and entrepreneurship. I'm okay. Doesn't matter. My wife is working her job, and like together you're a team. And that's the other way I like to think through it, right? Money, wealth, freedom, life is a team game if you're in a relationship, right? So like your partner could be the one who has the corporate job, who gets the like, the health insurance, and like you're the side hustle entrepreneur, like who like, keeps you protected. And then you also have the 4% rule. So like you, Doug, and your wife are super anti-fragile. Like basically you're always going to be able to live your best life from now and like forever.
Well said.
So those are my thoughts.
That's awesome. Yeah. And the thing that you highlighted there that I arrived at like in the last couple of years, thinking about the 4% rule and then having like debates and all these conversations about the 4% rule, most people end up making a little money. And as a person who has some side hustle chops and some interest in entrepreneurship, it's like, it kind of doesn't matter. Like if we consider the 3% rule or even the 2% rule, like that almost doesn't matter. Like you said, you could have different pieces of the puzzle, different legs of your, chair or whatever. And if I know that I can like start a business if I need to, or if I enjoy a side hustle, then, and I could cover a handful of expenses, like that goes a long way and like eases the pressure from the 4% rule being like exact.
Yeah.
And it's just a guideline anyway. So
Yeah.
and like I said, there's all this debate, and I'm like, it doesn't even matter. Like, you're probably going to do something in a few years. Like, it gives you breathing room to, move forward. And like you said, pursue things that can make you happier.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. This show is brought to you by Feel Free from Botanic Tonics. This product is unlike anything I've ever had before. No joke. It's made with kava root and other ancient plants, and just half a shot gives me this incredible sense of focused flow and productivity. And I love to take just half a shot right before I work out. I take it with my pre-workout, and it takes my workouts to the next level. It is seriously unlike anything I've ever had. It's also an incredible productivity tool for any big work projects that you have, or long periods of time where you just need to be super focused in flow state and get a lot of shit done. So if you want to give this a shot, you can go to botanictonics.com and use code DRAGON at checkout to get 40% off your first order. No joke, 40% off with code DRAGON. That's Feel Free from botanictonics.com, code DRAGON. Feel free, feel good.
Yeah. And that's really, again, for me, it's about fun and freedom, right? So like I'm having fun with my quote unquote corporate job. But what if that changes, right? What if leadership changes and suddenly they want me to come into the office, 4 days a week and be there from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.? Well, then I could be like, that doesn't work for me. Like, if I can't work from home and set my own schedule, like, we'll just have to part ways, right? And I think side hustles is really cool because you can pursue different things that are interesting to you that may or may not make money. And I'm always the proponent, like, hey, if you can have fun making money doing something, that's like double the fun. As long as you're not like trying so hard to make the money that the fun disappears, right? And I think that's the best of the both worlds. And I think most FI people are so freaking driven that's why, like, these people who hit FI, retire, or go into depression, it's because they're not doing anything with themselves, right? And then, like, the one thing that makes humans happy is progress, right? So if they suddenly stop progressing and they're just sitting around, like, watching Netflix and playing video games, of course they're going to be fucking depressed.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, awesome. Let's talk about sleep, because that's, I deeply believe that sleep is the wonder drug. And when you get enough of it, your life is incredible. And then when you don't get enough of it, life is terrible. So I know recently you've really kind of upgraded your sleep. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. And quick note, I'm good to go long because I know we're coming up on the time. So I'm good to keep talking if you are. So
yeah, I have a stop in 19 minutes.
Cool. Okay. So basically, I am sleeping currently, and I monitor with an Apple Watch, by the way, for everyone's reference here. So last 30 days, about 8 hours and 20 minutes to 8 hours and 30 minutes. And for the previous probably 2 to 3 years, it was closer to 7 hours, maybe 7 hours and 20 minutes on good months. And I went back and looked here. In fact, last December, so comparing like one specific month year over year, I was getting 6 hours and 57 minutes last December. So I dramatically increased my sleep. And I've actually been trying for a few years and kind of unsuccessfully. One big thing is my deep sleep has increased a lot. So before I was getting maybe like 15 to 30 minutes per night. Now it's closer to like an hour and 45 minutes to 3 hours. I think last night it was 3 hours, which is staggering. So
that's huge.
Insane. And I'm not sure, like, it's only been a month or two, or sorry, about a month. So I'm not sure, like, if I'm going to get more benefits as like my hormone levels like even out, or, some of the other details that happen when you get the right amount of certain, the sleep profiles. So the biggest change in the last month is getting a chili pad. So I looked at them a few years ago and I didn't pull the trigger. They're a little pricey, a few $100s. I heard they were the greatest thing ever, but I was like, I'm not really sure. One of my buddies upgraded his, so he gave me his half queen and I hooked it up. It's been amazing. Immediately, like that first night, like my sleep improved. So basically I've gone from, around 7.5 hours to over 8, pretty much regularly, almost every single night. And the other little change, I'm a fan of Andrew Huberman, and I'm sure, a lot of your audience have checked out many of his episodes, but his sleep stack of, I think it's magnesium, 3 and 8, L-theanine, and apigenin. So take those each night. And the one thing that I've changed was I've upped my theanine from 200 milligrams to 400, which I think is within his range, but now I'm taking more than I was. And the other thing that I slowly did, I think at the start of last year, is I trimmed out caffeine. So to circle back to the caffeine topic, I cut down. I was still drinking probably like 3 cups of coffee. I would stop by noon or so each day, but it was still, I think, impacting my sleep. So I slowly weaned us off of caffeinated coffee to decaf over the course of like 2 months. So my wife didn't even know it. And later I told her. She didn't know it at the time. I really gradually trimmed it down. And just from doing that, I was getting more sleep, not more deep sleep, but I was getting about 30 more minutes of sleep per night just from doing that. So trimming caffeine, I upped my theanine, and then the big thing was the chili pad. And I knew I was a hot sleeper, but I didn't know that it was going to do that like fucking immediately.
Yeah, I love that. That is amazing. So I'm definitely a huge fan of magnesium, L-threonate, apigenin, and L-theanine. There's one other one that Huberman also recently added in, and I want to say I'm going to have to look it up on my Amazon order because I can't, it's a weird name.
While you're looking it up, I remember running across it. Is one of them glutamine? Is that one of them?
It's not the one I'm thinking. Okay. So basically, so all 3 of those work, and I'll put links in the show if people want to like get those supplements. The thing I need to invest in is the chili pad, because like I've been hearing about it for years. Tim Ferriss has talked about it, and the fact that now I've talked to somebody who literally increased their sleep almost well over an hour. See, that's my problem, is I just don't sleep that long. Like I will like basically, if I sleep 8 hours, I'm like, holy fuck, that's amazing. Yeah. Because usually after 6 or 7 hours, I wake up. Like I just wake up. And, a few times a week, I'll take like a 1 to 3 hour nap, like either on the weekend or whatever. And I kind of just top off. The other thing that I need to really work on, and I just don't know when and how, is the caffeine. Like I'm sober. I don't drink. I don't smoke marijuana. Like I don't, do anything. And so like caffeine is kind of like my one vice. And like, it's in my pre-workout. I don't drink coffee, but I do drink black teas and matcha green tea. So I know that like if I take a day and I reduce the amount of caffeine I've had, I will sleep longer. But I just I need to, there's only been a few times when I've completely gone off caffeine, and that was pretty much because I put myself in a situation, like consciously, where I just did not have access to it.
Got it. And I did add back some caffeine. So I do like coffee, and I like the ritual of making coffee. And basically, I think it's about 30% caffeinated. So I could still have some, and it's okay. And I don't take a pre-workout on a regular basis, but I'll get a sample every now and then. And what are those usually, like 200 milligrams, something like that?
It depends. The one I take is only 100 milligrams, but there's some that have 300 or 400 grams of caffeine in it, or milligrams. Yeah. So you got to be careful.
And as long as I'm not doing it too often, like it hasn't impacted the sleep too much. So I have added back the caffeine, and occasionally I'll have like a matcha as well. So not doing what I was, because it was really easy to just like keep adding more and more. And I mean, I like what it was doing. So once I identified, like, I was like, oh man, I was really disappointed that it worked, but at least I knew.
Yeah. Like yesterday, I had about the fourth of the caffeine that I had, and I slept way more.
Really?
Like I had a fourth of what I normally have because I took a day off from the working out. And I was like, yeah, God, I got to get off this stuff.
Sucks.
Slow process. So the other supplement that Huberman brought up that basically it helps him, or he claims it helps him stay asleep longer. And I'm still kind of testing it out, but it's inositol, inositol. And I'll put a link in the show notes, but that's another one that I've been playing around with. And then there's two other things that I want to share with you that may help you sleep longer and or improve your HRV. And this is for the audience as well. So one of the sponsors of my podcast is Feel Free. Let's see if I have, nope, I don't have it with me. But anyways, so Feel Free is very interesting because it's kava based, and kava is like it's a root, like kind of a ancient plant that like a lot of different like, island civilizations use kind of as like part of their ceremonies. Also just kind of like as a social lubricant. So it kind of gives you like similar effects to like kind of like the calming effect of like caffeine, or excuse me, of alcohol, and kind of that like urge to just feel more at ease and like maybe a little bit more chatty. It's also a slight painkiller. And this is just like a plant, like, so, and then also it has a tiny bit of kratom in it. So it's a 10-to-1 kava and kratom mix. And when I first started taking Feel Free, and you'll hear it on this podcast episode. There'll be an episode an announcement for it. Just half a shot. It basically takes my workouts to the next levels. It makes my productivity and creativity go like through the roof. Like it's actually my favorite supplement. It's crazy. But the other thing it did for the first like 6 to 8 months is it radically improved my sleep, both the duration and my HRV, my deep sleep, and everything. Now that has worn off. Like I've been using it for like, about a year. So now I'm kind of like back to sleeping less. But for the first like 6 to 8 months, like my sleep when I started taking just half a shot of that stuff, like went through the roof. It was crazy. And I was like blown away by it. So I know if I would just take a week or two off of it and then like go back on it, it would probably improve my sleep again. And that's one of my challenges. Of when I find something I like, I don't want to stop taking it ever, even though I know it's good to take breaks from all supplements. I just kind of have like somewhat of an addictive personality. So that's one. The other one that I just found that is really interesting is, and I'm still testing it, but I want to share because it's like totally safe and it's actually kind of good for you, is activated charcoal. So like if you will take activated charcoal, and this is my personal experience, so you're going to have to do your own testing. Activated charcoal is a great way to cleanse your body. So I found that when I would do that like once or twice a week, the nights that I do it, and you need to take activated charcoal in between meals and away from supplements, because it basically binds to all the things in your body and helps pull them out. So if you take it with supplements, you're basically like just throwing your supplements in the garbage. So don't do that. But it will spike my HRV and it will increase my quality of sleep significantly. So those are two more fun ones for you to try, Doug.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to get on those. And I forgot to mention that too. In the last, sleeping better, my resting heart rate is improving and my HRV is going up. It's like 109 for the last 30 days, reported by my Apple Watch, and then 70, 80 for the last, couple months before that. What's your HRV? I don't know what's good for.
Dude, so this is one that is super weird for me. So at one point last year, my HRV, and like, I'm going to tell you, wait till you hear the whole thing. Like I had my HRV regularly above 120 and I'm like 40. And then basically once I started my podcast and coaching program, it is now between like 50 and 70. And like,
Wow.
yeah. So like, since I started these two businesses and my cognitive load is so much more, it is like significantly dropped. So I've been trying to like figure out like, did I change something in my life? Like, is it just these two new business endeavors and it's like so much more cognitive load that my like nervous system can't calm down? Therefore my HRV is just like totally like terrible compared to what it used to be. And then the other weird thing is when I travel to certain places, I don't know if it's because I'm on vacation or the place that I am in, my HRV will skyrocket up. And I don't know if it's because I'm taking a break from work and then my mind is able to relax. So just so the audience knows, I wear an Oura ring. Sorry, I'm pointing to the wrong thing. An Oura ring, a Whoop, and a Garmin, all of which track HRV. And they're all slightly different on the HRV, but they're all kind of in the same range. And so just for me, because I just love this stuff. So for me, it's like I'm constantly testing supplements, meditations, sleep, like all sorts of different things. Like I know, like when I take a nap that night, my HRV will be way better. So
Nice.
But yeah, any other thoughts on sleep?
No, just, do more of it. Everybody do more sleeping.
Dude, I'm going to get a chili pad now for sure. As soon as I get back from Hawaii, I might even order it. Like I might text you and be like, yo, which one do I need to get?
Yeah.
But this has been a super fun conversation. We're approaching 2 hours. Is there any last topics or kind of things that you would like to cover?
No, we covered everything, man. This has been amazing, really fun.
Awesome. Any last words of wisdom or requests to the audience that you want to leave?
I think I won't give any more wisdom. We covered a lot of stuff here, so I don't want to repeat anything. But if you listen to me talk, if you're interested in personal finance stuff, financial independence, particularly like post-FI lifestyle, Mile High FI is where you should check out the show.
It's a great show. I actually listened to it. I love it. That's why you're on the show, is because I listened to your show.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. Yeah, we have a fun time. Carl Jensen is the co-host, and we have great guests on there. We did an interview recently with Mr. Money Mustache. And if you're interested in the side hustle stuff, affiliate marketing, SEO, you can head over to Niche Site Project, and there's free templates and kind of an outline and roadmap on what you need to do if you want to start going down that route. And the show, the Doug Show, is Doug.show is the URL, and it's on all the big platforms, all the podcasting platforms out there, and on YouTube. So thanks a lot, Justin. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. And I totally want to encourage the audience, if you at all feel a calling to do a niche site, like definitely Doug is the man in the business. He's got some online courses, and the fastest way to become successful is to just invest in yourself and your own kind of entrepreneurial endeavors. Otherwise, you're going to spend years trying to figure out yourself for free. And that's the thing I found in my own life. If I just want to learn something fast, get a coach who already knows what they're doing, or take a course that will literally show you how to do it. And you pay money, but it's truly an investment, because you can 10x the speed that you can get to the level of achievement that you want to get. So if niche site or affiliate marketing is something you're interested in, I highly encourage you to go check out Doug's courses and everything. We'll put show notes and the links. Doug, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. We'll have to do this next time during an actual hike in Colorado with those mics mic'd up on us.
Let's do it, man. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for tuning in. And remember, literally everything can be used as an opportunity to learn, to heal, to grow, and to transform. So whatever is going on in your life, choose to consciously and proactively harness that energy and use it to alchemize your life to the next level. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or on your favorite social media, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. As always, you can find me at Justin David Carl on Instagram and all the socials, as well as at alchemizelife.com on the web. Until the next time, sending you lots of energy and plenty of dragon magic.